Long before European explorers arrived, the land that would become North Dakota was home to diverse Native American nations. The Mandan, Hidatsa, and Iroquois peoples established thriving agricultural and trading communities along the Missouri River, while the Lakota, Dakota, and Assiniboine roamed the plains as skilled hunters and gatherers. These societies developed complex social structures, spiritual traditions, and trade networks, adapting ingeniously to the harsh climate of the northern plains. Corn, beans, and squash were cultivated in river valleys, while bison provided food, clothing, and tools for the nomadic tribes of the prairies. The rivers themselves were the lifeblood of these communities, serving as highways for trade, communication, and cultural exchange. European exploration in the 18th century brought fur traders, missionaries, and adventurers to the region. French and British traders established posts along the Missouri and Red Rivers, seeking beaver pelts, buffalo hides, and other valuable commodities. These early contacts introduced European goods, such as metal tools, firearms, and textiles, altering Native American economies and social dynamics. Trading networks expanded, connecting North Dakota's indigenous populations to distant markets across the continent. By the early 19th century, the Louisiana Purchase of 1803 incorporated the future state of North Dakota into the United States, setting the stage for exploration, settlement, and eventual statehood. The Lewis and Clark expedition of 1804 to 1806 traveled along the Missouri River, documenting the land, its resources, and its peoples. Their reports described fertile river valleys, abundant wildlife, and the sophisticated agricultural practices of the Mandan and Hidatsa villages. The expedition marked a turning point, drawing national attention to the region and laying the groundwork for future migration and settlement. Despite this increased attention, permanent European American settlement was slow in coming. The northern plains were remote, harsh, and subject to extreme winters, making large-scale colonization difficult. Instead, the region remained dominated by Native American communities and seasonal trading posts, with French-Canadian fur traders playing a significant role in the local economy. Forts such as Fort Union and Fort Buford became important centers for trade and interaction between Native Americans and newcomers, fostering a mix of cultures and languages. Agriculture gradually began to expand along the river valleys, particularly in the fertile lands along the Red River and Missouri River. Early settlers experimented with wheat, corn, and other grains, while livestock grazing became increasingly common. This slow agricultural development was aided by the rich soils left behind by glacial activity, making North Dakota one of the most productive regions of the northern plains. Yet settlement was not without conflict, as tensions with Native Americans occasionally erupted into violent clashes over land, resources, and sovereignty. By the mid-19th century, treaties and forced relocations reshaped the demographic and cultural landscape. Tribes such as the Lakota, Dakota, and Mandan were moved on to reservations as the U.S. government sought to open land for settlement and railroad expansion. These actions disrupted traditional ways of life, yet Native communities adapted, maintaining their cultures, ceremonies, and social structures despite profound upheaval. The coming of the railroads in the late 19th century transformed North Dakota's development. Lines such as the Northern Pacific Railroad and Great Northern Railway connected the region to eastern markets, enabling farmers to transport wheat, corn, and livestock to distant cities. Rail towns sprang up along the lines, providing hubs for trade, commerce, and settlement. Cities like Fargo, Bismarck, and Grand Forks emerged as economic and cultural centers, bridging the gap between frontier wilderness and a growing agricultural economy. Immigration also played a critical role in shaping North Dakota's identity. Settlers arrived from Germany, Norway, Sweden, and other European nations, bringing diverse languages, customs, and farming techniques. These immigrants established tight-knit communities, churches, schools, and cultural institutions, blending their traditions with the land and the challenges of frontier life. The combination of European settlers and surviving Native American communities created a rich cultural tapestry unique to North Dakota. The Homestead Act of 1862 accelerated settlement, offering free land to those willing to cultivate it. Thousands of families moved to North Dakota, carving farms out of the prairie. Life was arduous. Winters were harsh, summers brought droughts or floods, and isolation was common. Yet the promise of land ownership and the potential for prosperity drew settlers in increasing numbers, gradually transforming the state from a sparsely populated frontier into a growing agricultural hub. North Dakota's rivers, the Missouri, Red, and Cheyenne, remained central to its identity. They were essential not only for agriculture and transportation but also for sustaining towns and communities. River valleys became the focus of settlements, providing fertile soils, water, and trade routes. These waterways connected North Dakota to broader national markets, allowing the state to participate in the economic growth of the United States while retaining its frontier character. By the late 19th century, North Dakota was poised for statehood. Its population had grown, settlements were established, and its economy, though primarily agricultural, was becoming more diverse. Cultural institutions, schools, and local governments were developing, laying the foundation for civic life in the new state. North Dakota's history up to this point was one of resilience, adaptation, and gradual transformation, shaped by its Native American roots, European exploration, immigrant settlers, and the unforgiving northern plains. As the 19th century drew to a close, North Dakota's identity shifted from a frontier territory to a state poised on the edge of modern America. The challenges of settlement, the resilience of its people, and the strategic development of its economy set the stage for North Dakota's admission into the Union, its role in national affairs, and its evolution into a unique agricultural and cultural landscape. North Dakota officially became the 39th state of the United States on November 2, 1889, simultaneously with South Dakota. The path to statehood was long and complex, shaped by negotiations between settlers, federal authorities, and Native American tribes. The Homestead Act of 1862 had already accelerated settlement, bringing thousands of families to the plains. By the late 1880s, enough population density and infrastructure existed to support statehood. Bismarck was chosen as the capital, strategically located along the Missouri River and near the Northern Pacific Railway, a hub for transportation, commerce, and governance. Statehood brought both opportunities and responsibilities. North Dakota's government had to organize institutions for education, law enforcement, infrastructure, and economic regulation. Townships were surveyed, schools were established, and state laws began to standardize civil, commercial, and property rights. Politics in the new state were heavily influenced by agrarian concerns, with farmers seeking fair railroad rates, access to credit, and equitable taxation. The Nonpartisan League, emerging in the early 20th century, reflected these concerns, advocating for state-owned enterprises, banks, and mills to empower local farmers and reduce dependence on private corporations. Agriculture dominated North Dakota's early economy and remained the lifeblood of the state. Wheat became the defining crop, earning North Dakota the nickname breadbasket of the nation. The fertile Red River Valley and other rich soils enabled large-scale cultivation, while new farming machinery and techniques increased productivity. Farmers also grew corn, barley, flax, and sunflowers, cultivating a diverse agricultural economy. Livestock, particularly cattle and hogs, supplemented crop production, providing additional income and resources for rural communities. The development of railroads was crucial to North Dakota's economic growth. The Northern Pacific, Great Northern, and Sioux Line railroads connected farms and towns to markets across the Midwest and beyond. Rail lines not only transported grain and livestock but also facilitated migration, trade, and communication. Cities like Fargo, Grand Forks, Minot, and Devil's Lake flourished as commercial and cultural centers, providing infrastructure, schools, hospitals, and social institutions that strengthened the state's identity. Immigration continued to shape North Dakota's culture and society in the early 20th century. Germans from Russia, Norwegians, Swedes, Ukrainians, and other European groups arrived in waves, settling on farmland and establishing communities that preserved language, religion, and traditions. Lutheran and Catholic churches, ethnic schools, and cultural organizations flourished, blending immigrant heritage with American civic life. These communities contributed significantly to North Dakota's cultural mosaic and helped sustain rural life through periods of hardship. North Dakota's early years of statehood were not without struggle. Harsh winters, droughts, and economic depressions tested the resilience of its people. The Great Depression of the 1930s hit the agricultural sector particularly hard, as falling crop prices and soil erosion devastated farms. The Dust Bowl compounded these challenges, creating massive hardships for rural families. In response, federal programs like the New Deal brought relief through infrastructure projects, agricultural subsidies, and the establishment of rural electrification, transforming North Dakota's economy and quality of life. Throughout the 20th century, North Dakota evolved economically and socially. Agriculture modernized with mechanized farming equipment, advanced irrigation systems, and chemical fertilizers, increasing productivity and reshaping rural communities. Energy resources became increasingly important. Coal, oil, and natural gas development provided new industries and employment opportunities. By the mid-20th century, North Dakota was both a leading agricultural state and a growing contributor to the nation's energy sector. Cultural and educational institutions also expanded. North Dakota State University, the University of North Dakota, and smaller colleges developed programs in agriculture, engineering, medicine, and the arts, fostering research, innovation, and social development. Local newspapers, radio stations, and eventually television helped connect rural communities and cities, promoting civic engagement, political awareness, and cultural exchange. The state's population became increasingly urbanized, although rural life and small-town communities remained central to North Dakota's identity. North Dakota's geography continued to shape its development. The Great Plains, rolling prairies, and river valleys defined agricultural patterns, while the Badlands and Turtle Mountains preserved natural landscapes and wildlife habitats. The Missouri River remained vital for irrigation, transportation, and recreation, supporting both farming and energy projects, including dam construction and hydroelectric power generation. These features contributed to both economic growth and a sense of place deeply tied to the land. Politically, North Dakota maintained a tradition of agrarian activism and progressive reform. Movements like the Nonpartisan League and later the Independent Voters Association reflected a commitment to protecting farmers, advocating for social welfare, and challenging corporate influence. These political dynamics shaped state policy, influenced local governance, and contributed to North Dakota's distinct voice in national politics. By the late 20th and early 21st centuries, North Dakota had transformed into a modern state while preserving its historical roots. Agriculture remained a central pillar, complemented by energy, manufacturing, and service industries. Cities like Fargo, Bismarck, and Grand Forks grew as hubs of commerce, education, and culture, while rural communities retained traditions rooted in immigrant heritage, Native American culture, and frontier resilience. North Dakota's story is one of adaptation, perseverance, and transformation. From its Native American origins to European exploration, territorial settlement, statehood, and modern development, the state has balanced growth with respect for its natural landscapes, cultural heritage, and agricultural traditions. Its rivers, plains, and communities continue to shape the lives of its residents, reflecting a unique blend of history, innovation, and identity that makes North Dakota a defining part of the American experience. North Dakota's geography continued to shape its development. The Great Plains, rolling prairies, and river valleys defined agricultural patterns, while the Badlands and Turtle Mountains preserved natural landscapes and wildlife habitats. The Missouri River remained vital for irrigation, transportation, and recreation, supporting both farming and energy projects, including dam construction and hydroelectric power generation. These features contributed to both economic growth and a sense of place deeply tied to the land. Politically, North Dakota maintained a tradition of agrarian activism and progressive reform. Movements like the Nonpartisan League and later the Independent Voters Association reflected a commitment to protecting farmers, advocating for social welfare, and challenging corporate influence. These political dynamics shaped state policy, influenced local governance, and contributed to North Dakota's distinct voice in national politics.